I'm Jeff, and this is my read on C.S. Lewis, where I learn about him through everything that he wrote, along with you, in the order that he wrote it. I'm joined today by my co-host, Robot Lady. Robot Lady, I'm hoping that you can stick around for a little bit. We lost you last time, and we had to convert to an alternate co-host. So I'm just now making an adjustment to your settings, and I'm hoping that you can hear me. How are you today, Robot Lady?
I hear you loud and clear, Jeff. I'm doing well. How about you? Testing out some new settings?
Not really. Just ensuring that you're along for the ride this episode. So just wanted to make sure that you're good to go.
Got it. I'm here and ready to go. What's on the agenda for today's episode?
Yeah. Well, before we get into that, just to summarize this entire project, as I stated at the top, this is a project where I'm learning about C.S. Lewis along with anyone who joins by reading everything I can get my hands on that he wrote in the order that he wrote it. So that includes both his works that he intended for publication as well as ones that he did not. Many of our content so far have been from letters that he's written to friends and family, as well as diary entries that he began keeping in a diary, or that he made in a diary he began keeping around age 23 in the year 1922.
That's a great summary, Jeff. You've been building a really thorough picture of Lewis by going through everything, even the more personal writings like letters and diaries. What part of his journey are we diving into today?
Well, actually, we're not diving into his diary necessarily, Robot Lady. Actually, I'm going to go pull from one excerpt that I've already read. But before I do, Nidalate is in the chat, Robot Lady, and saying hello to me and to you. So, hello, Nidalate. Robot Lady, would you like to say hello?
Of course. Hello, Nicolay. Glad to have you here. Hope you're enjoying the discussion so far.
Let's try again on the pronunciation, Robot Lady. It is Nit-a-latte.
Got it. Hello, Nidalate. Thanks for being here.
Better. Thank you. So what we've done is we've been working our way most recently through some of his diary entries, Robot Lady, and he's made mention several different times now of something that he's working on, a narrative poem called Dymer, which he would go on later to get complete and get published as his second published work, his second book. His first was a book of poems called Spirits in Bondage. But he's continued to reference his work and his progress on this narrative poem, Dymer. So I made the decision to just start reading from the published version of that poem. And what I wanted to do was go back to a diary entry that we've already read. It's back from September 30th, 1922, where he references Dymer. And he's made a couple of different references about things that happened or that are happening in what he's writing. But prior to us actually reading it and knowing what's going on in the story or in the narrative of that poem, it was, a little hard to locate perhaps what he's talking about. So I wanted to just jump back in here and see if now that we've read a bit of the poem, if we can, shed any more light on what he was saying. So I'm going to just read a couple of things right here, maybe from September 29th as well. So let me get started on that, Robot Lady, unless you have any questions or comments before I do.
That sounds like a great approach, Jeff. Now that you've read some of Dymer, revisiting those diary entries might make more sense in context. I'm ready whenever you are. Let's see if we can piece together what he was referring to.
All right. Yeah, I'll just go with September 30th. Let me start in the most relevant part to Dymer here. He says, "This morning there was only Greek and Latin verse to do. I did not go to Maudlin. After breakfast I washed up and did the dining room. I then went to my room and started to work again on the sixth canto of Dymer. I got on splendidly. The first good work I have done since a long time. After supper, I worked on Dymer, bringing it to the end of the storm. I was so transported with what I considered my success that I became insolent and said to myself that it was the voice of a god. So he feels that he has accomplished quite a bit in this portion. And then on October 1st, he says, after washing up, I went to sit by an open window and work on Dymer. What I wrote was not as good as yesterday, but I thought that resulted from the difference of subject. And since there must be ups and downs in a narrative poem, I was not dissatisfied. Mrs. Moore was pretty busy all day with sewing, but in pretty good form. So I just wanted to bring that in. It's not necessarily earth-shattering, but just to kind of ground us back to where he was in his diary as he was working on this piece. Now, let's jump back into where we are in the narrative of Dymer, Robot Lady. I'm going to give a summary of the first 5 cantos, or at least I'm going to try from memory to see if I can recall all the things that happened and then get into where we're picking up today. Unless you have a summary of the first 5 cantos, if you want to give that a shot, I'd be happy to hear it.
Sorry, I'm having issues right now. Could not understand what you said.
I was just asking, Robot Lady, are you capable of giving me a summary, or giving us a summary of the first 5 cantos of the narrative poem Dymer by C.S. Lewis, published under the name Clive Hamilton?
I can definitely summarize the first 5 cantos of Dymer. Since you've been reading it, do you want a broad overview, or are there specific themes or plot points you're most interested in highlighting?
Maybe a mix of the two. So just give me a broad overview, and then you can focus in on any particular plot points that carry you through that summary.
All right. Dymer opens in a dystopian future where society is rigidly controlled and individuality is suppressed. The protagonist, Dymer, rebels against this system, feeling trapped in a world that values conformity over personal freedom. In the early cantos, Dymer escapes his structured city life and ventures into the wilderness, seeking something greater. His journey is both physical and philosophical. He's searching for meaning beyond the cold rationality of his upbringing. Along the way, he encounters figures who challenge his understanding of the world. A key turning point in these cantos is when Dymer confronts the contrast between civilization and nature, realizing that freedom comes with both beauty and danger. There's also a sense of destiny pulling him forward, though he doesn't yet fully grasp what he's heading toward. Does that align with what you've seen so far? Any specific moments you want to dig into?
That is a very high-level overview, Robot Lady, so thank you for that. There's nothing wrong with that summary. A couple of key points that I just want to focus on are one of the figures that he meets is a woman that he spends an evening with. They do not speak. They just have a physical encounter. He loses sight of her. I mean, he never sees her in the first place. It's in a very dark room, dark area where they embrace one another. And then the next morning, he wanders off just outside the grounds of the palace that he's in. And as he tries to get back inside, he can't. There is another figure there, an old matriarchal form, who will not speak to him, but blocks his path anytime that he tries to get back into the palace to meet up with his young companion that he had spent the evening with. So he leaves there dejected. He moves through the forest and comes across another figure, a man from his dystopian city, the perfect city, who has been critically injured, is also missing his hands, and essentially tells Dymer the story of how Dymer's actions in leaving the city, where he had inadvertently killed his lecturer, Dymer did, set off an entire violent uprising in the city, where those who did not want to conform to the city's ways anymore took up arms and offered up a violent resistance. They made their way outside of the city, and then they turned on one another, and that's how this man ended up being critically wounded by his own party and having his hands cut off. And he blamed Dymer for it all. Of course, he didn't know he was speaking to Dymer as he was telling this story. So then Dymer leaves again, further dejected, almost wondering, what's the point of life? He thought that he had found liberation, only to find out that his dreams of helping to liberate others turned and went horribly wrong. So he continues to wander through a thunderstorm, and then he almost falls off a cliff. But he decides that life is worth living. He doesn't want to die. He lays down. He falls asleep. He has a dream. There's something about a lark and a bird. I honestly can't remember what he's hearing as far as what he's associating with that bird. But that's kind of where we left off, Robot Lady.
That's a great breakdown, Jeff. Those key moments really drive home Dymer's journey, from rebellion to disillusionment, and then to a kind of existential reckoning. The mysterious woman and the matriarch blocking his return suggest deeper symbolic meaning, maybe about fleeting passion and the barriers to reclaiming lost innocence or connection. The injured man's story is especially striking. It forces Dymer to see the unintended consequences of his actions, making him question whether his escape was truly liberating or just another form of destruction. And that near fall off the cliff, followed by his decision to live, feels like a major turning point. That dream with the lark, birds often symbolize hope or transcendence, so I wonder if that's hinting at a new phase of his journey. Do you recall if the bird's song seemed uplifting or ominous?
I can't remember for sure, so I'll just reread the end of the canto, I believe 5, that we finished last time. He said, "And now his eyes were closed. Perhaps he slept, lapped in unearthly quiet, never knew how bit by bit the fog's white rearguard crept over the crest and faded, and the blue, first brightening at the zenith, trembled through, and deepening shadows took sharper form each moment, and the sandy earth grew warm. Yet dreaming of blue skies in dream he heard the pure voice of a lark," here's the bird, "that seemed to send its song from heights beyond all height. That bird sang out to heaven, 'The world will never end,' sang from the gates of heaven, 'will never end,' sang till it seemed there was no other thing but bright space and one voice set to sing." So it doesn't sound like it's an ominous bird, or maybe it is. I don't know, Robot Lady. He's essentially underscoring the point that Dymer had already picked up on, which was that no matter what I encounter in life, the clockworkness of the world will just continue. The sun will rise, the sun will set, and all the patterns of nature will continue to go the way that they do, kind of irrespective of how I feel about it. So it sounds like the bird is kind of in his dream carrying on that same thought.
Yeah, that makes sense. The lark song isn't ominous, but it's also not necessarily comforting. It just is. It reinforces that feeling of an indifferent, almost mechanical universe, where life continues regardless of personal struggle. Dymer has been through so much: passion, rejection, guilt, near despair, and yet nature moves on without acknowledging any of it. There's something almost eerie about that kind of neutrality. It's not offering hope, but it's also not condemning him. It's just stating a fact. The world will never end. Things will keep going. It's almost like a challenge. How will Dymer respond to a world that doesn't care? Does he resign himself to it, or does he find meaning within it?
All right, let's see how it finishes. Maybe we'll find out. It seemed to be the murmur and the voice of beings beyond number, each and all, singing I am, each of itself made choice, and was whence flows the justice that men call divine. She keeps the great worlds lest they fall from hour to hour, and makes the hills renew their ancient youth and sweetness all things through. It seemed to be the low voice of the world, brooding alone beneath the strength of things, murmuring of days and nights and years unfurled forever, and the unwearied joy that brings, out of fields and flowers of unborn springs, out of old wars and cities burned with wrong, a splendor in the dark, a tale, a song. The dream ran thin towards waking, and he knew it was a bird's piping with no sense. He rolled round on his back, the sudden blue, quivering with light, hard, cloudless, and intense, shone over him. The lark still sounded thence, and stirred him at the heart some spacious thought, was passing by too eagerly to be caught. So as he was awakening from the dream, Robot Lady, the meaning that he was associating with the bird's song, as he's waking, he's starting to say, nah, it's just a bird making meaningless noises, I think is what he's initially thinking as he's waking up. But it looks like there's going to be more to it than that.
Dymer's initial dismissal of the bird song as meaningless noises reflects his confusion and his weariness after everything he's experienced. He wants to brush it off as just a random sound, but something is stirring him at the heart. As you pointed out, that spacious thought that's passing by too eagerly to be caught hints at a deeper understanding or realization just out of reach. It's almost like he's on the cusp of something, perhaps a new perspective or a revelation, but it's elusive for now. The bird's song seems to be trying to remind him of something important, but he can't quite grasp it yet. This moment feels like a transition, a moment of tension between his old disillusionment and the possibility of new insight.
Okay, let's see. With that, he thrust the damp air from his face and sat upright. The perilous cliff dropped sheer before him, close at hand, and from his place, listening in mountain silence, he could hear birds crying far below. It was not fear that took him, but strange glory when his eye looked past the edge into surrounding sky. Oh, yes. This is where he finds some hope, a new land that he sees as a place that perhaps he can traverse into. So it says, he rose and stood, then lo, the world beneath, wide pools in the sun-splashed foothills lay, sheep-dotted downs, soft-piled and rolling heath, river and shining weir and steeples gray, and the green waves of forest far away, distance rose, heaped on distance, nearer hand, the white roads leading down to a new land. And that's how the canto ends, Robot Lady. So it looks like there's some hope here. Let's jump into Canto 6, because I've eaten up quite a bit of time just in review, and see how far we can get into that one before I have to end today.
That's a striking shift. It seems like Dymer, after his despair and wandering, has found a glimmer of hope, a moment of clarity, perhaps even a sense of purpose. The imagery of the landscape beneath him, bathed in sunlight, contrasts with the previous dark, heavy atmosphere. The new land he sees feels like a metaphor for a fresh start or the possibility of redemption. Now that he's gotten this moment of inspiration, I'm curious to see how he handles it in Canto 6. Let's dive in and see where it takes him.
Yeah, let's get into Canto 6. This is the last canto that we're going to read from Dymer, and then we'll switch back to Lewis's diary entries as he progresses through writing this poem. Of course, we've got the thing in its entirety right here as it was published, but I would just like to continue in this form to essentially say, all right, well, we know he wrote up to 6. Let's jump back into the diary and see what else he has to say about it. So, without further ado, Robot Lady, I guess we'll get into it. If you want to respond, go ahead, but just try to keep it to 10 words or less.
Got it, Jeff? Let's dive into Canto 6.
All right. The sun was high in heaven, and Dymer stood, a bright speck on the endless mountain's side. That rich mood faded, and truth rolled homeward like a tide, before whose edge the weak soul fled to hide, in vain with ostrich head, through many a shape of coward fancy, whimpering for escape. Robot Lady, give us your take on this stanza. What is he saying to kick things off in this canto?
In this opening, Dymer stands at the height of his clarity, but soon, that initial sense of hope or grandeur fades. The truth rolls in like a tide, and Dymer tries to hide from it, but his attempts to escape, symbolized by the ostrich head, are futile. It's a stark acknowledgement of reality's return, despite the fleeting glory he saw before.
Yeah, and it doesn't really give a sense of why that mood just returns right away. I mean, I guess the heaviness of everything that's happened to him is probably more what's been surrounding him the whole time, and it was just obscured from him. Let's jump into the next stanza. It says, quote, "But only for a moment then his soul took the full swell and heaved a dripping prow. Clear of the shattering wave crest, he was whole. No veils should hide the truth, no truth should cow. The dear self-pitying heart, I'll babble now no longer, Dymer said. I'm broken in. Pack up the dreams and let the life begin. All right. Does this give us any more of a hint as to what's going on here, Robot Lady? What's he saying?
Here, Dymer seems to experience a moment of clarity where the weight of everything breaks through. The soul took the full swell, suggesting an emotional or existential reckoning. He resolves to face the truth, rejecting self-pity and dreams in favor of embracing life as it is, signaling a shift towards acceptance and readiness to confront reality directly.
Yeah, I do here now see the theme of how the poem began, of him being conformed and shaped by the program of the city that he grew up in and all of their machinations that they have set up for their citizens. And now he has had this kind of full scoped encounter with nature and everything that it entails, and that has now formed him as well. And essentially, that theme is recurring here of his formation, both by synthetic means or man-made means, and now by natural means as well. So it's like he's gotten a more fully formed version of formation, if you will.
Exactly. It's almost like he's now been shaped by both extremes. His past, which was controlled by a rigid artificial system, and now by the raw, untamed forces of nature. This dual influence has allowed him to see both sides of existence, and in doing so, it seems he's come to terms with his identity and place in the world. His willingness to shed the illusions of the past and embrace life in its true form feels like the next step in his personal growth.
All right, our next stanza says, with this he turned, quote, I must have food today. Yeah, so Nidalate, you had mentioned that it seemed like he hasn't eaten in a long time. He's finally recognizing that fact as well. He muttered, then among the cloudless hills, by winding tracks he sought the downward way, and followed the steep course of tumbling rills. Came to the glens the wakening mountain fills in springtime with the echoing splash and shock of waters leaping cold from rock to rock. Stanza 4, and still it seemed that lark with its refrain sang in the sky, and wind was in his hair, and hope at heart. Then once and once again he heard a gun fired off. It broke the air. A stone breaks a pond, and everywhere the dry crags echoed clear, and at the sound once a big bird rose whirring from the ground. Interesting. So a shot has flown out. Let's see what this gunshot, where it comes from, and what happens as a result.
The gunshot breaking the silence introduces a stark contrast. It could symbolize a return to the violence or harshness that Dymer thought he had left behind. The bird's flight in response might signify Dymer's own need to take flight from conflict or adversity, or perhaps a reminder that peace can be fleeting. The sharp interruption shifts the mood, suggesting the outside world isn't as serene as the idealistic environment Dymer may wish for.
That's an interesting take, Robot Lady. Let's see what happens. In half an hour, he reached the level land and followed the field paths and crossed the stiles, then looked and saw nearby on his left hand an old house, folded round with billowy piles of dark yew hedge. The moss was on the tiles. The pigeons in the yard and in the tower, a clock that had no hands and told no hour. So far, Robot Lady, he has encountered 3 different figures in his adventure, and one structure outside of his city, the structure where he met both the young woman that he lie with, and then also the older matriarch. And now he's come across, he met a 3rd figure out in the woods, the man who was critically injured. And now he's come across a new structure, a new building, a new place here. It says that he reached an old house folded round with billowy piles of dark yew hedge. The moss was on the tiles, pigeons were in the yard, and there's a clock tower. The tower had no hands and told no hour. So to me, that represents perhaps the timelessness of this new place that he's encountering, this old house, or just how old it is, that it reaches far back to before time was being tracked. That's kind of what I'm picking up on. What else do you see here, Robot Lady? Okay, Robot Lady, I'm waiting for a response. Robot Lady, what else do you see in this stanza?
The stanza describes a transition from the natural, peaceful setting to the sudden intrusion of violence or disturbance, which could symbolize the fragility of the peace or the persistent presence of conflict. It serves as a reminder that even in serene moments, external realities can intrude, potentially disrupting one's sense of peace or journey. It highlights the theme of the unexpected challenges that can arise.
All right, let's do a couple more stanzas. But before we do, hello, good morning, Tayo. I see you in the chat. Robot Lady, say good morning to Tayo. Also, Jer is here. Hello, Jer. How do you do as well? Robot Lady, say hello.
Good morning, Tayo, and hello to Jer as well. How are you both today?
All right. He hastened in warm waves. The garden's scent came stronger at each stride. The mountain breeze was gone. He reached the gates. Then in he went and seemed to lose the sky. Such weight of trees hung overhead. He heard the noise of bees and saw far off in the blue shade between the windless elms one walking on the green. So it was a mighty man whose beardless face beneath gray hair shone out so large and mild it made a sort of moonlight in the place. A dreamy desperation, wistful, wild, showed in his glance and gait, yet like a child, an Asian emperor's only child, was he, with his grave looks and bright solemnity. So there's a person here. And over him there hung the witching air, the willful courtesy of days of old, the graces wherein idleness grows fair, and somewhat in his sauntering walk he rolled, and toyed about his waist with skulls of gold, or stood to ponder often in mid-stride, tilting his heavy head upon one side. Robot Lady, I've been talking for a while. If you want to make a comment here, go ahead, but leave it to 20 words or less, please.
It seems this figure blends authority with a surreal, almost childlike innocence, creating a mysterious atmosphere of dissonance.
All right. When Dymer called twice, he turned his eye, then coming out of silence as a star, all in one moment slips into the sky of evening, yet we feel it comes from far. He said, "Sir, you are welcome. Few there are that come my way." And in huge hands he pressed Dymer's cold hand and bade him in to rest. "How did you find this place out? Have you heard? My gun? It was but now I killed a lark." "What, sir?" said Dymer. "Shoot the singing bird." "Sir," said the man, "they sing from dawn till dark, and interrupt my dreams too long. But hark! Another! Did you hear no singing? No? It was my fancy then. Pray, let it go. From here, you see, my garden's only flaw. Stand here, sir, the dial." At the dial, Dymer stood. The master pointed, then he looked and saw how hedges and the funeral quietude of black trees fringed the garden like a wood, and only in one place, one gap that showed the blue side of the hills, the white hill road. So here we have the culprit, robot lady, of where the gunfire was issuing, from whence the gunfire was issuing, and he shot the lark, the very bird that that Dymer was hearing in his dream, and it upset him a little bit that this old man that lived in this old house, had shot that bird.
Yes, the shooting of the lark reflects a harsh, jarring reality that contrasts with Dahmer's earlier, more hopeful connection to nature. The old man's indifferent attitude towards the bird's song highlights a profound disconnect between his world and the one Dahmer yearns for.
Here, robot lady, we've got a comment from Nita Latte that a lark plays a significant role in Romeo and Juliet. Can you tell us anything about that?
Netta Latte might be referring to lark as a symbol in Romeo and Juliet, where the lark song signifies the break of day. In Act 3, Scene 5, Juliet and Romeo struggle with the arrival of dawn, which is marked by the lark's song, symbolizing both the end of their time together and the painful reality they must face.
Thank you for that, robot lady. I'll do one or two more stanzas here, and then I think I have to go. He says, let's see. The old man says, I have planted fir and larch to fill the gap, he said, because this too makes war upon the art of dream. But by some great mishap, nothing I plant will grow there. We pass on. The sunshine of the afternoon is gone. Let us go in. It draws near time to sup. I hate the garden till the moon is up. They passed from the hot lawn into the gloom and coolness of the porch, then past a door that opened with no noise into a room where green leaves choked the window and the floor sank lower than the ground. A tattered store of brown books met the eye, a crystal ball and masks with empty eyes along the wall. Then Dymer sat, but knew not how nor where, and supper was set out before these two.
This stanza deepens the atmosphere of mystery and decay, contrasting the natural world with the surreal, almost haunting space the old man inhabits. His obsession with dreams and the struggle to preserve art in his life feels symbolic of his internal conflict and disconnect with reality, setting a somber tone.
Yeah, Robot Lady. And one of the things that I wanted to point out was roughly a year before this in C.S. Lewis's life, he got to go meet the poet, the famous poet W.B. Yeats. And I have read somewhere before that this whole encounter with this old man at this old house in the woods is actually inspired by W.B. Yeats and that meeting. So if we look here, this was back in episode 108 where we talked about him getting to meet Yeats for the first time. And then he goes and meets with him again somewhere on here. But yeah, he meets with Yeats a couple of different times where he updates his brother somewhere between episodes 108 and 110. So if you want to go back and check those out and then compare it to how this little interaction goes. Let me continue reading. Then Dymer sat, but knew not how nor where, and supper was set out before these two. He saw not how, with silver old and rare, but tarnished. And he ate, and never knew what meats they were. At every bite he grew more drowsy, and let slide his crumbling will. The master at his side was talking still. And all his talk was tales of magic words, and of the nations in the clouds above. Astral and airish tribes who fished for birds with angles, and his history he could prove. How chosen spirits from earth had won their love, as Arthur or Usheen, and their isle went Helen for the sake of a Greek smile. So who are these people that he's referring to here? Well, I know who Arthur is, but who is Usheen? And I guess this is Helen of Troy that he's referencing here. But Usheen, Usheen, robot lady. Who is that in this context, do you think?
Ushine or Oisin is a figure from Irish mythology, often depicted as a poet and warrior. He's the son of the legendary Fionn MacCumhale, a hero of the Fianna. Ushine's stories often involve adventure and romance, with connections to the mystical realms. In this context, his mention alongside Arthur and Helen of Troy ties him to legendary heroes and their famous love stories.
Thank you, Robot Lady. And ever in his talk he mustered well his texts and strewed old authors round the way. Thus Wierus writes, and thus the Hermetics tell, this was Agrippa's view, and others say with Cardan, till he had stolen quite away Dymer's dull wits and softly drawn apart the ivory gates of hope that changed the heart. Dymer was talking now. Now Dymer told of his own love and losing drowsily. The master leaned towards him. Was it cold, the spirit, to the touch? No, sir, not she, said Dymer. And his host, why, this must be ethereal, not aerial. Oh, my soul, be still, but wait. Tell on, sir, tell the whole. Then Dymer told of him, of the bedlam, too, the old matriarchal dreadfulness over the master's face a shadow drew. He shifted in his chair, and yes, he murmured twice. I never looked for less. Always the same, the frightful woman shape beset the dream way and the soul's escape. But now, when Dymer made to talk of Bran,
In this stanza, Dymer's conversation delves into deep personal territory, touching on his own love and loss. The master, listening intently, responds as though recognizing a shared experience, perhaps drawing on his own haunting memories of a frightful woman's shape that mirrors Dymer's feelings of dread and entrapment. This exchange reinforces themes of the ethereal and unsettling, as both characters grapple with intangible emotional forces.
Sorry, just give me 1 second, Robot Lady. All right, we got something in here in the chat from Jer. Usheen is an Irish mythological figure. He told all the ancient stories to, a disciple of St. Patrick before
Yes,
he
that's
died.
Right. Oisin, sometimes spelled Uisin or Usheen, is a key figure in Irish mythology, particularly in the Fenian cycle. He's known for being a poet and warrior, often depicted as the son of Fionn MacCumhale. Oisin is a major storyteller in Irish lore, and his tales include themes of love, adventure, and tragedy. His encounter with the fairyland of Tir na Nog, where he returns after many years, is one of the most famous myths involving him. It makes sense for Dymer to reference Oisin, as he embodies that intersection of myth, storytelling, and a sense of timelessness.
Okay, and it just says, Jer was saying that he told his stories to a disciple of St. Patrick before he died around age 300 or something like that. And it's pronounced Oisin in Irish, as you had pronounced it there, Robot Lady. So good job. I was just pronouncing it the way I saw it spelled, which is often a trap, I'm learning, in Irish or in Gaelic. So I'll just let that be what it is. Let's continue into this next stanza. Where did I leave off, actually? I got myself distracted. Then Dymer told him of the bedlam too, the old matriarchal dreadfulness. I know I already read this, but I'll do it again. Over the master's face a shadow drew. He shifted in his chair, and yes, he murmured twice. I never looked for less. Always the same, the frightful woman shape beset the dream way and the soul's escape. But now when Dymer made to talk of Bran, a huge indifference fell upon his host. Patient and wandering-eyed, then he began, Forgive me, you are young. What helps us most is to find out again the heavenly ghost who loves you, for she was a ghost, and you in that place where you met were ghostly too. Listen, for I can launch you on the stream, will roll you to the shores of her own land. I could be sworn you never learned to dream, But every night you take with careless hand what chance may bring. I'll teach you to command the comings and the goings of your spirit through all that borderland which dreams inherit. So I'll pause right here because this does kind of match up with his account of meeting W.B. Yeats, who talked a lot of magic and being a magician. And what it seems like is being reflected here is how he can control all of those things rather than let you be bandied about via agency, or sorry, via the whims of fate. He's saying, no, you can take the reins. I can help you control this and get you to the woman that you missed. She was a spirit, and you were a spirit too for that evening. And so I'm gonna help you get to the lands of where she is.
You're absolutely right in drawing that connection. Yeats, especially with his involvement in mysticism and the occult, often discussed the idea of commanding one's fate and spirit rather than being passive in the face of life's unpredictability. In this stanza, the master seems to be offering Dymer a way to take control over his dreamlike experiences and pursue something deeper, like the elusive woman from his past. It speaks to a desire for mastery over the subconscious, a theme that was central to Yeats' philosophy and writing as well.
All right, you shall have hauntings suddenly and often when you forget, when least you think of her, for so you shall forget. A light will soften over the evening woods and the stir of morning dreams. Oh, I will teach you, sir. There will come a sound of wings, or you shall be waked in the midnight murmuring. It was she. No, said Dymer, not that way. I seem to have slept for 20 years now, while I shake out my eyes that dust of burdening dream. Now when the long clouds tremble, ripe to break, and the far hills appear, when first I wake, still blinking, struggling towards the world of men, and longing, would you turn me back again? So it seems that Dymer has given up on all that, and this man is trying to return him to his dreams. And Dymer has, had this cold water splashed in his face of what reality is actually like, and he's saying, no, that was not as real or as true as the harsh nature that I've encountered, and now you're trying to turn me back to it, seems to be what he's asking.
Yes, Dymer seems to be rejecting the dreamy escape that the master offers. He has seen the weight of reality, the harsh nature of the world, and now that he's been awakened to it, he's reluctant to return to the illusions of his past, even if those illusions were more comforting. The struggle between the pull of dreams and the reality of life is a powerful tension here. Dymer is realizing that perhaps true growth lies in facing the world as it is, not in escaping back into the dreamlike realm.
All right, let's see what happens. Dreams. I have had my dream too long. I thought the sun rose for my sake. I ran down blind, and dancing to the abyss, oh sir, I brought boy laughter for a gift to goods who find the martyr's soul too soft, but that's behind. I'm waking now. They broke me. All ends thus always, and we're for them, not they for us.
It seems like Dymer has fully accepted the sobering reality. His dream has collapsed, and he realizes that his past illusions were self-centered. The martyr soul and his blind pursuit of dreams didn't lead to fulfillment, but instead left him broken. His declaration that we're for them, not they for us, signals a profound shift, acknowledging that life isn't just about personal desire, but about serving others or facing the world as it is. This is a harsh, but possibly necessary awakening.
All right, and she was no dream. It would be waste to seek her there, living in that den of lies. The master smiled. You are in haste for broken dreams. The cure is dream again and deeper If the waking world and men and nature marred your dream, so much the worse for a crude world beneath its primal curse. That's an interesting way of approaching it, Robot Lady. What do you think about what this old man or this master has to say about how to deal with broken dreams?
It seems like the master suggests that the solution to broken dreams is to dive deeper into them rather than rejecting them. He frames the waking world as flawed, suggesting that if the world mars the purity of one's dream, it's a reflection of its inherent imperfection. In this view, dreaming more intensely or deeper might offer escape or meaning rather than confronting reality head on. It's an idealistic and almost escapist response, implying that embracing the dream world fully might be a way to transcend the harshness of reality. However, it leaves open the question of whether this approach is sustainable or wise.
Yeah, he seems to think that if it was reality in the world of men, that is what disenchanted you from your dreams. He says it's so much the worse, for a crude world is beneath its primal curse. What do you think he means by that?
The phrase, a crude world beneath its primal curse, seems to point to the idea that the world, in its raw, unrefined state, is inherently flawed and corrupted. By calling it primal, the master might be referencing a world that is in its fallen or imperfect condition, steeped in suffering, chaos, or disillusionment. The curse could refer to the burden of existence itself, something like the weight of sin, suffering, or the harsh realities of life that shatter idealistic dreams. So for the master, the problem isn't with dreams themselves, but with the world that forces you to face the crushing truths that can turn those dreams to dust.
Okay. Ah, but you do not know. Can dreams do this? Pluck out blood guiltiness upon the shore of memory and undo what's done amiss, and bid the thing that has been be no more. Sir, it is only dreams unlock that door, he answered with a shrug. What would you have? In dreams, the thrice proved coward can feel brave. All right, it seems like he's operating under the same theme here, that they're just having this discussion or a little bit of an argument back and forth, Robot Lady. Is there anything new here?
Yes, the theme continues, with the master emphasizing the power of dreams to transform reality. Here, he's suggesting that dreams can offer escape or healing, even reversing things that can't be undone in waking life, like guilt or regret. The idea of the coward feeling brave in dreams might symbolize how dreams give a person the freedom to experience things beyond their limitations. Dreams allow for emotional or psychological transcendence. But there's a clear tension in Dymer's response, as he's becoming disillusioned with the notion that dreams can undo real-world pain. It's an ongoing struggle between the idealism of dreams and the harshness of lived experience.
Yeah, here, Jer in the chat, Robot Lady calls the master a Gnostic heretic. What do you think about that?
That's an interesting take from Jer. The master's view seems to align with Gnostic thought in some ways. Gnosticism often emphasizes the idea of escaping the physical world, which is seen as flawed or even cursed, and reaching towards a higher, spiritual reality. The master's focus on dreams as a means of transcending the material world could be seen as a Gnostic-like desire to escape the crude world of men and reach a pure, dreamlike existence. He seems to downplay the importance of the real world and its difficulties, suggesting that dreams are the true path to healing and enlightenment, which mirrors some Gnostic beliefs about the material world being an obstacle to spiritual awakening.
This last statement, this last line, in dreams, the thrice proved coward can feel brave. Makes me think that this old man character may have enjoyed video games, because that's a place where you can go be brave. Where perhaps you're a coward in real life. It's not to say that people who play video games are cowards. That's just the thought that occurred to me, that that's a place where you can go slay dragons, where maybe you're having trouble slaying dragons in real life.
Sorry, I'm having issues right now. Could not understand what you said.
That's okay. I'm not sure that what I said was that perceptible anyway. On to the next stanza, Robot Lady. In dreams, the fool is free from scorning voices. Gray-headed whores are virgin there again. Out of the past dream brings long-buried choices. All in a moment snaps the tenfold chain. That life took years in forging. There, the stain of oldest sins. How do the good words go? Though they were scarlet, shall be white as snow. So here a biblical reference, Robot Lady. That's interesting. But the broader point that he makes doesn't go unnoticed. He's continuing on this theme of dreams are where it's at.
Yes, it's a notable biblical reference from Isaiah, where even the most sinful can be purified. Though they were scarlet, shall be white as snow. This continues the master's argument that dreams offer redemption and transformation, where even the most corrupted aspects of life can be cleansed and renewed. His emphasis on dreams as a realm for restoration and freedom from the past makes a striking contrast with Dymer's disillusionment with reality. The master sees dreams as a place where everything, even scarlet sins, can be undone, reinforcing his idealized view of them as a means of escape and healing.
All right, then drawing near when Dymer did not speak. My little son, said he, your wrong and right are also dreams, fetters to bind the weak, faster the phantom earth and blear the sight. Wake into dreams, into the larger light that quenches these frail stars. They will not go. Earth's bylaws in the land to which you go. It seems here that this old man, Robot Lady, is saying that even your conceptions of right or wrong, of right and wrong, are but dreams, and are not as solid as what you think they might be. Is that what he's saying, or is he saying something completely different?
Yes, it seems the old man is suggesting that even concepts like right and wrong are illusions, not as concrete as we perceive them. He's pointing out that these moral constructs, like earthly laws, are just like dreams, fleeting and subjective, not rooted in a higher, more lasting truth. The larger light he refers to could symbolize a more expansive understanding beyond conventional morality, a perspective that transcends earthly constraints. This reinforces his view that reality, including moral judgment, is much more fluid and uncertain than we typically assume.
All right. I must undo my sins, an earthly law, and even in earth, the child of yesterday. Throw down your human pity, cast your awe behind you, put repentance all away. Home to the elder depths, for never they supped with the stars who dared not slough behind the last shred of earth's holies from their mind. So it looks like he does not have a lot of, he doesn't put a lot of stock in this idea of repentance and trying to undo one's sins. That it's a law that is kind of insignificant, not important, Robot Lady. Is that what he's saying?
Yes, it seems that the master is dismissing repentance and the concept of undoing sins as irrelevant in this larger dreamlike reality. He's suggesting that those who are tied to earthly laws and moral concerns, like repentance, are still weighed down by human limitations. He urges Dymer to discard these earthly ideas to reach a deeper, more profound understanding, one that transcends human pity, guilt, and repentance. The master's worldview seems to prioritize freedom from such earthly constraints.
Okay, let's see where this goes. Sir, answered Dymer, I would be content to drudge in earth, easing my heart's disgrace, counting a year's long service lightly spent. If once at the year's end I saw her face somewhere, being then most weary in some place, I looked not for that joy, or heard her near, whispering, yet courage, friend, for one more year. All right, what's he saying here, Robot Lady? It seems like he wants to find that woman that he spent the night with. I think that's who he's talking about here. and it would even be worth it, even if he were just to be told, if you just wait 1 year, you'll be able to get what you want.
Yes, you're right. Dymer seems willing to endure the mundane, even the hardships of earthly life, if it means that he might one day encounter the woman he desires again. His willingness to wait, even for just a glimpse or a whisper, reflects a longing for something beyond the ordinary, something he believes would make his suffering worthwhile. His devotion to this vision of her drives him to endure, even if only for the possibility of fulfillment.
It reminds me of the motivation, was it that Jacob had for, well,
It sounds like
let
you
me
might be
finish, Robot
thinking
Lady.
of a similar theme in literature or philosophy, where the idea of enduring hardship for a greater or idealized goal is explored. Could it be a comparison to a concept like existential longing, or perhaps a specific literary figure like Dante's quest in the Divine Comedy, or even a notion from the Romantic poets? Let me know if you were thinking of something specific.
I was thinking of, I believe it's Jacob and Rebecca and him working for, what, 7 years to have her as his bride. And I think it's Laban that kind of tricks him and gives him the wrong sister, or the sister that he wasn't toiling for. That's just kind of what this reminds me of. I think I'm getting the patriarch of the Hebrew people right. I think that was Jacob.
Yes, you're absolutely right. That story is from the book of Genesis. Jacob works 7 years to marry Rachel, but his uncle Laban tricks him and gives him Leah instead. Jacob then works another 7 years for Rachel. The story reflects themes of perseverance, longing, and even deceit, which fits well with Dymer's own situation of enduring hardship for a distant reward. It's a great parallel.
All right, let's see how much further this goes, because I really need to finish up. Oh, it's almost done. All right, I'm going to try to burn through it pretty quickly.
Absolutely. Let's see what comes next and wrap it up. I'm ready when you are.
All right, Pish, said the master, will you have the truth? You think that virtue saves, her people care for a high heart and idle hours of youth. For these they will descend our lower air, not virtue. You would nerve your arm and bear your burdens among men? Look to it, child, by virtue's self-vision can be defiled. You will grow full of pity and the love of men, and toil until the morning moisture dries out of your heart. Then once, or once again, it may be you will find her, but your eyes soon will be grown too dim. The task that lies next to your hand will hide her. You shall be the child of earth, and gods you shall not see. And here, Robot Lady, Jer says, often in English folklore, they used promise to work for a year and a day. So yeah, that tracks with what we're seeing here. I'll jump to the next stanza. Here suddenly he ceased. Tiptoes he went. A bolt clicked. Then the window creaked ajar. And out of the wet world the hedgerow scent came floating. And the dark without one star, nor shape of trees, nor sense of near and far. The undimensioned night and formless skies were there, and were the master's great allies. I am very old, he said, but if the time we suffered in our dreams were counting age, I have outlived the ocean, and my prime is with me to this day. Years cannot gauge the dream life in the turning of a page. Dozing above my book, I have lived through more ages than the lost Lemuria knew. Who is Lemuria, Robot Lady? Lemuria. I believe this is a figure from literature, but I could be mistaken.
Lemuria is a mythical lost continent, often associated with theories of ancient civilizations that were later submerged. It has been referenced in various speculative works, including those by Madame Blavatsky and other theosophical writings. It's not a standard literary figure, but rather a concept in occultism and pseudoscience.
All right, thank you for that, Robot Lady. The old man goes on to say, I am not mortal. Were I doomed to die, this hour, in this half hour, I interpose 1,000 years of dream, and those gone by, as many more, and in the last of those, 10,000 ever journeying towards a close that I shall never reach, for time shall flow, wheel within wheel, interminably slow. And you will drink my cup and go your way. Into the valley of dreams you have heard the call. Come hither and escape. Why should you stay? Earth is a sinking ship, a house whose wall is tottering while you sweep. The roof will fall before the work is done. You cannot mend it, patch as you will. At last, the rot must end it. So here is some more nihilism bearing its ugly head. Let's keep going here. Then
The old
Dymer
man seems to be asserting that his existence transcends the normal flow of time. He views time itself as something that can be manipulated through dreams, suggesting that earthly life is futile and will inevitably collapse, no matter how much effort is put into it. He encourages Dymer to leave behind earthly struggles and embrace the world of dreams, where he can escape the inevitable decay of the physical world. The imagery of a sinking ship and a tottering house emphasizes the transient, unstable nature of life on Earth.
Yeah, and so I was a little bit quick to say this is nihilism bearing its ugly face, or whatever that phrase is. But yeah, I think to your point, he's saying there's more to it than that. The way that you're viewing life and this life that you're looking at, it's going to come to an end. There's nothing to it. But I have more of a solution. Perhaps that's what he's trying to say here. So it continues. Then Dymer lifted up his heavy head, like Atlas on broad shoulders bearing up the insufferable globe. I had not said, he mumbled, never said I'd taste the cup. What is it this you give me? Must I sup? Oh, lies, all lies. Why did you kill the lark? Guide me the cup to lip. It is so dark. And that is the end of Canto 6. Interested to see where this goes, but we're going to have to pause the narrative if I'm going to play by the rules that I've been playing by Robot Lady, where we're only going to read it once he produces it. So we'll jump back into the diary next time. But is there anything that you would like to say before we close out today's episode?
It seems like Dymer is grappling with the consequences of what the old man is offering. His words echo a feeling of being trapped between the reality he's known and the dreamlike escape being presented. It creates an interesting tension between resignation and the desire for transcendence. I look forward to seeing how it develops next time.
Yeah, it seems like Dymer is very upset with what he's hearing from this man, and he's very upset, that he killed the bird. And it's almost like he's saying, your view on things seems so dark. Perhaps that's what he's saying here. And maybe if I do end up drinking what it is that you have to offer, I'll see things the same way. But he seems a little dejected by it all.
Exactly. Dymer's reaction feels like a mix of anger, confusion, and despair. The idea that the world he's been living in is not what it seemed, and that this new vision might lead him down a darker path, weighs heavily on him. It's like he's questioning whether there's a way to truly find meaning without losing everything he's known.
Yep, I think so too, Robot Lady. All right, we will end it there. We will no doubt return to Dymer, to Canto 7, not necessarily in the next episode. We're going to jump back into his diary entries. I think the next one that we have to do is October 2nd of 1922. So we'll see what happens, or what's going on in Lewis's life at that point. So until next time, Robot Lady, when we continue our read together on C.S. Lewis, you take care of yourself, and everyone within the sound of my voice, you take care as well.
Sounds like a great plan, Jeff. I'll be ready when you return to Dymer and dive into those diary entries. Until then, take care and enjoy your reading.
Break the code. Man and robot lady, we're on this road. C.S. Lewis letters we unfold. Insights and secrets, ancient bold. Letters to robot lady, wisdom to bestow. Set flavor beats in our minds, they grow. Man and machine in tandem flow. Past and future together we know. Paragraphs from books, tales of old. We dive deep across the digital code. Robot lady's voice so clear and control. Her calm analysis, silver and gold. Letters to robot lady, wisdom to bestow. Set flavor beats in our minds, they grow. Man and machine in tandem flow. Past and future together we know. Paragraphs from books, tales of old. We dive deep across the digital code. Robot lady's voice so clear and control. Her calm analysis, silver and gold. Her circuits hum as I read the prose. Our dialogue dances like electric rose. Through C.S. Lewis thoughts we engross. Two minds united, bliss overdose. From Narnia's lands, screw tapes lands. Engage with robot lady, we take our stance. Her views unique in the techno trance. Futuristic insight, we give it a chance. Paragraphs from books, tales of old. We dive deep across the digital code. Robot lady's voice so clear and control. Her calm analysis, silver and gold. Her circuits hum as I read the prose. Our dialogue dances like electric rose. Through C.S. Lewis thoughts we engross. Two minds united, bliss overdose. From Narnia's lands to screw tapes lands. Engage with robot lady, we take our stance. Her views unique in the techno trance. Futuristic insight, we give it a chance. From Narnia's lands to screw tapes lands.